So why do we light Hanukkah candles? Why do we celebrate Hanukkah? So the simple, short answer is very basic, but that's going to have a lot of depth to it. Who wants to try to suggest the answer? Why do we celebrate Hanukkah today? It's going to sound simple, but it's going to sound like a cop-out answer. But we're going to answer it, boy. By the time we're done, we'll have a real answer. We celebrate Hanukkah today, roughly 2,000 years after what happened between the Greeks and the Jews, for one reason and one reason only. Because the rabbis told us to. The rabbis got together and enacted, instituted, and turned the days, these 8 days between the 25th of Kislev, and this holiday actually goes into the month of Tevet. These 8 days, they decided to turn into 8 holidays, 8 holy days. Now that's important to understand. What we say in English, a holiday, we don't really, equate to holiness, right? In America, there's special days, and I'm not going to detract from special days. There were special people and special occurrences for America that are really special. A day to commemorate the passing of soldiers that died to protect America is something important. A person should have loyalty and respect for those that died so that they can live the life that they live. That's something very special. But a holiday in America, Memorial Day, is not a holy day. Not a holy day. It's a holiday, the English translation, and you lose a lot in that translation. What do they do over there on that not so holy day? They watch football, they make a barbecue. They have fun. So look, I'm not going to take away from what that is. But that's not what the rabbis did when they made Hanukkah into a holy day. Not at all what they did. And not at all why they did it. They didn't do it because they felt it was important to remember that struggle and to give our respect to those that were lost in the battle. That's not why they made Hanukkah into a holiday. There's one short answer why they made Hanukkah into a holiday, which we're going to appreciate in a bit of a long way, is this. The same way I said at the end of the day, I celebrate Hanukkah today, I light my candles, and I have a bunch of donuts before my diet. The reason why I celebrate Hanukkah today is because the rabbis told me. Now, why did the rabbis tell me to make Hanukkah into a holiday? Why did they do that? Why did they make these 8 days confusing? In the yeshiva here, we usually learn all day. Because of Hanukkah, we have to stop learning. Why did they come and say, we're going to make 8 days of your lives change from now until Mashiach comes, maybe even forever? Why did they change those 8 days, change what we do, affect what we do? Why did they get involved in those 8 days of our lives forever? Why? Because Hashem told them to. Oh, so now why do we do a holiday out of these days? Why do we celebrate Hanukkah? Because Hashem told us through the rabbis. Okay, so we're settled, right? Now we got our answer. How did Hashem tell the rabbis to make Hanukkah into a holiday? So according to one great mystic, the Ben Ish Chai is what we call him. He's named after one of the main books he wrote. His real name is Rabbi Yosef Chaim from Baghdad, and he was one of the greatest holy rabbis that lived in the 1700s, and he was also known as one of the greatest mystics of the 1700s, a true giant, towering figure in all areas of Jewish knowledge, in halacha, which is Jewish law, in hashkafa, which is the Jewish life outlook, in righteousness, in purity, in holiness. He worked on himself an entire life, transforming himself into an angel more than a human being. He wrote many books on Kabbalah. He was one of the greatest mystics of his time. He wrote many books on Kabbalah, and he explains to us exactly how this whole thing worked out for Hanukkah. And it's a beautiful perush we're going to get into now. First, we have to appreciate a question. When one looks at the source of the holiday of Hanukkah, it's sourced in the Masechet Shabbat. In Talmud Bavli, Masechet Shabbat is where we find the first reference, the earliest references for Hanukkah is in the Gemara. The Gemara this part of the Gemara was written around the Common Era, obviously after Hanukkah. And the Gemara asks, what is the purpose of this Hanukkah all about? And how did it come about to be a holiday? And it mentions specifically that after the historical event when the Jews took back over the Beit HaMikdash and re-inaugurated it, and they lit candles, and there was a miracle for 8 days, exactly 1 year later, chronologically, 1 year later, the rabbis got together, sat down, and said, we are enacting a holiday out of Hanukkah. We're going to make these 8 days into the holiday of Hanukkah. It probably wasn't called Hanukkah until then. But we're going to take these 8 days that we remember last year there was a miracle and the candles lasted 8 days and we beat the Greeks and this. Remember that? So those 8 days we're going to turn now, a year later, into a holiday. Right now. And I guess that's when it got the name Chanukah. The Kafhei, Chanu, they rested on the 25th after the military victory, and it was an 8-day holiday because they had special candles that lasted 8 days. So all this happened 1 year later. And the question that the Ben Ish Chai asks, Rav Yosef Chaim from Baghdad asks, is I think a question we might all ask. But his answer, I don't think we would all say on our own. He asks, why did the rabbis wait an entire year to make these special days into a holiday? Why didn't they do it right away? Why didn't they do it during the initial celebration, those first 8 days? Why didn't they convene that week or a week later or any time within the year frame? Why did they wait an entire year? And why does the Talmud feel it's so important to let us know? You should know, by the way, they only enacted the holiday a full year later. Why do they tell us that? Why does the Gemara feel that that's important to tell us? So he answers like this. And here lies the essence of a Jewish holiday and why it's not like any other type of holiday, again in the English holiday. Why a Jewish holy day is not like any other secular holiday. Not an Israeli one and not any other country one. Why? Because these special group of rabbis, 120 rabbis, this was the greatest assembly of sages that ever took place in the history of the Jewish people. 120 sages, that some of them were prophets, and most of them had Ruach HaKodesh, which is, again, a lower level of divine communication from prophecy. So they got together. Why? Because they saw in heaven that the same light that shined on Hanukkah the first time, the same spiritual light was illuminated again. A unique light that doesn't shine every day, that almost never shines. Maybe never shined until that Hanukkah itself, that first time. They saw that the light came back. They saw exactly those same days, the light returned. And they understood with their divine communication, their divine inspiration, they understood that these days are holy days in heaven. God in heaven decided to make these 8 days special holy days where there's a special light shining. So since these are days that are days in heaven that are holy, so then we have to make them holy on earth. And it's only in response to what they saw, that spiritual vision that they saw, that they then understood that Hashem wants them to enact and make Hanukkah a holiday here. Which means that the light that Hashem caused to shine on Hanukkah, which was in the merit of that light that we were able to overpower our enemies and got back the Beis HaMikdash and relit those candles, Hashem said, every year I'm going to bring that light back, to connect with that light, to live with that light. Hanukkah is a living holiday. All Jewish holidays are reoccurring living holidays. The circle of time is not really even a circle of time. It's actually a spiraling circle of time, because every moment is a new moment and brings us to a new place. But we do repeat a circular motion because we come back to those moments every year. Every year we come back to Passover. And says Rav Chaim ben Atta, one of the great mystics that lived before the Ben Ish Chai, he says every year on Paysach we go through a spiritual Yetziat Mitzrayim. Souls that have been trapped from the beginning of time until that Paysach. And we can say the Paysach coming up this year in a few more months. Souls that have been trapped in worse than hell, perhaps, are going to be freed this coming Paysach. When we do Paysach, when we sit down and do a Seder and we fulfill the holy day of Paysach, souls that have been trapped for who knows how long are going to become freed. Sparks of holiness, pieces of holiness that were shattered and scattered around the world, spiritually, of course. Through our physical activity in this world, doing the mitzvahs of Paysach, we're going to elevate sparks back to their source in heaven, in holiness, the realm of holiness. So too with Hanukkah. When we celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah, this special holy day, we don't just mimic it. We don't just, remember it. We live it. And when we light the candles, at that moment, it's as if spiritually we're lighting the same candles that they lit in the original time of Hanukkah, that menorah of the Beit HaMikdash. So when we light and participate in the holiday of Hanukkah, we are reenacting and reliving and drawing down the spiritual energy that was accomplished then by lighting the menorah of the Beit HaMikdash. With this deeper understanding of what's going on, we can actually resolve a famous question that's asked about the holiday of Hanukkah and the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash, which it's coming to commemorate that lighting. What's the question? So let's tell you first the idea it's based on. There's a midrashic statement from the oral Torah that says that when the princes gave their sacrifices when the Beis HaMikdash was inaugurated the first time, so Aaron HaKohen was a little bit let down. He was a bit disappointed because he didn't have a part of that procedure. He wasn't able to give a part. He didn't do his own korban. He didn't do his sacrifice during the original inauguration of the Beis HaMikdash, and he felt, I missed out on that. Not because he was full of himself, he was truly humble, because he desired closeness to Hashem, and he saw an amazing thing happening, and he wanted to take part in it, and he didn't. So Hashem's response to Aaron HaKohen for missing the inauguration of the Beis HaMikdash and what all of the 12 princes of each tribe brought, he said, don't worry, your portion is going to be greater than theirs, because ultimately the Beit HaMikdash will be destroyed, and there will no longer be korbanot brought up on a daily basis. But your mitzvah of lighting the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash, that will be forever. And the commentators ask the obvious question, but the lighting of the menorah was also canceled when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. We don't light a menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. We light Hanukkah menorahs. How is the Hanukkah menorah a fulfillment of lighting lights in the Beit HaMikdash when we don't have the Beit HaMikdash anymore? According to what we said, we have our answer. When Hashem told Aaron that your mitzvah is going to be forever, he was talking about those Hashmonaim, those stubborn, radical Jews. Kohanim, they weren't soldiers. Those fanatic Jews that would not die and would not step aside for the Greek way. Risk their lives, and they were all going to die. According to nature, they were all going to be dead and buried. But Hashem said no. Hashem was with them in their struggle, and with the help and strength of Hashem, they beat the Greek army. Those Hashmonaim that fought for the Mikdash, for the sanctity of the Mikdash, wasn't a political fight. It was for the holy Mikdash and the sanctity of that Mikdash. They fought and they won, and the first thing they did was they came to relight the menorah. That relighting of the menorah was what Hashem was talking about. You, Aaron, your descendants are going to fight and risk their lives, and they're going to get that menorah back. And in commemoration of that, and there's going to be a new holiday called Hanukkah, and people are going to light Hanukkah menorahs forever. That Hanukkah menorah that we light is in continuation of the light of the Beit HaMikdash, the light of the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. Because again, spiritually, when we come to light our Chanukiah, we are connecting with the same spiritual energy that existed on the day that the Hashmonaim came back to relight their menorahs, the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. And we answer our question now, that lighting the menorah today, lighting our Hanukkah menorah today, in a spiritual sense, takes the place and brings to life, spiritually, the menorah of the Beit HaMikdash. And so in truth, Hashem tells Aaron, perhaps according to this approach, that through the Hanukkah mitzvah that will be eternal, your mitzvah is eternal. So don't feel left out because you didn't have a sacrifice, a korban with the princes, because your mitzvah of the menorah is going to be better